Welcome to the second installment of the topic on morphology. I'm Dr. Jeremy Law from the University of Glasgow, and this second video I'll try to answer the question that some of you might have is, why teach morphology, or why should a teacher dedicate any time in kind of a very full and busy day to focus on the explicit instruction of morphological awareness? So to address these questions, I will try to present some evidence supporting morphological knowledge's link to reading and spelling development and success in reading. I'll briefly mention a few studies that have examined this link, and if you want to learn more about some of the studies that I do mention or some of the links between morphology and reading and the research that's been done, I've added links to those down below this video so you can have a look at it after you're done watching. So I think the best place to start to convince you for the need for more morphology instruction in our curriculum is to tell you a bit about what makes morphemes such amazing linguistic units to teach. Morphemes are loaded with information which you do not get from a single phoneme or orthographic unit on its own. Because the English language is morphophonetic language, it's not phonetic, where there's a one-to-one sound letter correspondence, say, such as Spanish or Serbio-Croatian. So we are morphophonetic, our language. It's a language that preserves a lot of the morphological structure in the spelling that we see in this written form. So understanding this can help us explain many of the inconsistencies we observe in our writing system, like why health still has heal in it. Why don't we say it as health, right? We don't actually spell it the way it sounds, but we're preserving one of the base morphemes. It's kind of a nod to its past. The information that morphemes convey can help support a reader in numerous ways, which we'll talk about in this video, okay? So each morpheme carries with it information which a reader can leverage when decoding, encoding, or trying to comprehend. For instance, each morpheme possesses orthographic information. This is the written form of the morpheme. So in the example on the screen, you can see doghouse. The two morphemes making up this compound word are dog and house. These are salient, easy, recognizable units which offer a level of consistency sometimes lost at the phoneme, grapheme level in the English language. So students or children, any readers, can actually seek out these kind of recognizable letter orthographic units that are constantly repeated within our written language to help them decode and recognize the word. There's also syntactic information, so think grammar. The morphemes offer insight into the function of the word in the sentence or what it may be referring to. So for example, the en in suffix on shorten, so in the example here beside me, denotes that the word is a verb. So an action is being carried out. Even if you did not know what the word meant, just based off the morphosyntactic information offered by the morpheme, a reader could still extract some information to help them comprehend the sentence or narrow down the actual meaning of the word. So even if I didn't know what shorten meant, at least I'll understand its role within that sentence. Similarly, there is semantic information provided by the morphemes. In the example, again, next to me here, we have the word geothermal. If you were unsure of the meaning of this word, you could try to surmise its meaning from the meaning of its morphemes. So geo, the earth, meaning the earth, and thermal, relating to heat, so earth, heat. So if you went on holiday with your parents or your family to Iceland, and you went to the geothermal hot springs, then you can actually surmise, okay, this must mean these springs are heated from the Earth's heat, so geothermal. So as a reader, you can use this information to help support the decoding, pronunciation, and comprehension of morphologically complex words, even if you've never come across them before. it can act as a self-teaching mechanism. So by having knowledge of the base morphemes, or of the suffixes, prefixes, and bases, it's a self-teaching mechanism so they can apply. So for example, take the sentence here that I have, a Floxatist will give a talk today. What is a Floxatist? I mean, I'm sure you don't know since I just made up the word, but the suffix is a true English morpheme, ist. So is there anything that you can kind of figure out from that? Okay, well, what is a Floxatist? I've never heard this. So most children will get tripped up on this sentence. They might lose, lose the rhythm within their reading, and it might become flustered because they don't know. But recognizing ist will quickly give them some information to actually help them along. So just through knowing that morpheme, a reader could easily recognize, could quickly, when they see that word Floxatist, recognize that consistent orthographic unit ist. Then understand that ist is denoting a noun or a person. It also tells you that it's a person who practices or is concerned with something. So there's syntactic and semantic information there. So by knowing this, the person then could easily figure out that, okay, the Floxatist is giving a talk today, so it's somebody that is maybe a specialist or is practicing floxate or floxating, whatever that is, because it's a made-up word. But it'll help you, give you more information to continue on reading and comprehending what the sentence is all about. So the research literature tells us that both the quantity and quality of word knowledge are very important in language and literacy development. So all that knowledge that we have about the word. Word knowledge goes far beyond knowing a simple definition of a word or being able to just pronounce it. So all aspects of word knowledge, so word meaning, syntactic roles, how the word sounds, and how the word is written are linked in mental representations. And the quality of those mental representations determines how well a word knowledge can be used. So this is then, it kind of explains why understanding morphemes and the knowledge that they convey could be actually vital within reading development and success within kids. So I've linked to a paper by Perfetti in 2007 below if you want to learn more about the different roles of word knowledge. So loop back, what does this have to do with morphology? The basic problem in learning to read words is associating various levels of information, such as semantics, what the word means, orthography, how it's written, and the phonology, how it's pronounced. As I just described, morphology is fundamentally related to semantics, but it also provides important clues on how the words should be written and pronounced as well. It helps consolidate those different pieces of information that are vital when we're trying to actually learn new words and text. So, for example, morphology helps us know that the unsound at the end of designation is not written un because it stands for the shun in the suffix. So again, having morphological knowledge will help us actually understand the word a little bit better and kind of consolidate not even just the semantics, but the orthography and the phonology that are related. Morphology also provides us clues about how to pronounce words. So for example, the EA in reach, now we say reach and then we say react. Look at the EA in both. Why do we pronounce these differently? It's the exact same letter combination. So imagine you're teaching a child and you've been drilling, your phonics lessons, sound it out, and you get to reach and react. So how do you explain that? The EA in reach represents one sound, reach, because it's the sound is singular because it's within a one morpheme. Whereas react, these letters represent two sounds because they're separated by morphemes, re and act. There's a boundary there, and that's why you would pronounce the E and the A separately, not as a single unit. So having an understanding and awareness of the morphological construct can actually help the child pronounce new words. Now, I started this video off by asking why should anyone care about morphemes? So far, I've explained reason number one. There's a lot of information contained within morphemes young readers can rely on when reading. Now, the second reason is due to the amount of research which has actually shown that morphological awareness predicts reading development. So stronger morphological awareness, we see better reading outcomes later on. So morphological awareness is a term used to describe one's sensitivity to morphological structure and one's ability to manipulate that structure. Research suggests that morphology provides a key to developing both word knowledge and high-quality mental representations, and that knowledge of morphology contributes to success in reading in children from grades 1 and across all the primary years. Several studies, including my own research, have actually shown that morphological awareness contributes to word reading, into reading comprehension and spelling. So I've linked to a few studies below, which you can link on and to read a little bit more. So in much of this research, other factors known to be important for reading success in development, such as phonological awareness and intelligence, are controlled for. This means that the effects of morphological awareness that were reported in these studies were not inadvertently due to any other variable. Furthermore, the contribution of morphological awareness on reading comprehension outcomes has been found to grow over time as children's literature and text that they're exposed to becomes more morphologically complex. We actually see the contribution of morphological awareness grow over time. In one study actually showing that around age 8 and 9, morphology ends up predicting reading comprehension and reading growth more than phonological awareness skills. So reason number 3 is that teaching morphology is linked to vocabulary growth, which we all know is very important. So our language is morphologically complex, and we can leverage this to help children quickly build their vocabulary knowledge and provide them with a self-learning mechanism which they can use to build vocabulary while independently reading. So morphology is productive. So for example, take the word piglet. Now you could be reading in your class Winnie the Pooh, and you could highlight the word or the name piglet within that text and discuss what this means. We know what a pig is. What about the suffix let? Well, this means little, which explains Piglet's name as he's a little pig. So armed with this information of understanding what let means as a suffix, then the child can then surmise the meaning of, say, new words they might encounter later that week or later that year, such as the word owlet. So when they come across that, whether in spoken form or in text, they'll know that an owlet means it's a little owl. So you don't need to teach the individual words. The parts of the words can be used to scaffold their own learning. This vocabulary growth and ability to infer meaning from unfamiliar morphologically complex words does not only drive vocabulary growth, but as stated before, this ability to extract meaning from morphemes at grade 3 has been found to predict a portion of grade 4 reading comprehension. So, for example, here is a clipping of the title of a paper. I've also linked it down below. And so I recommend it if you want to learn more about morphological's ability to predict reading comprehension. So it's by Kyle Levesque and colleagues. So Goodwin and Ann, 2010, also linked below, explained that since morphological awareness increases vocabulary knowledge and processing efficiency, more cognitive resources are available to process the text as a whole, kind of explaining why we see this relationship between morphological awareness and reading comprehension. Additionally, as a student gets better at identifying words and their meanings, reading comprehension improves because they have more information to make inferences and generate an accurate map of the text as they start to read. So again, if you want to learn more about that, the Goodwin 2010 paper I've linked below for you to explore. So reason number 4, teaching morphology has been shown to support reading. So in a review of 22 studies by Bowers and Kirby, so again, link below, with their review article had participants ranging from preschool to grade 8. Bowers and Kirby found that morphologically focused instruction resulted in higher literacy and language achievements in word reading, spelling, reading comprehension, in vocabulary. And so by targeting the morphological instruction, that will see these growths, and you're not directly actually instructing these variables specifically. Morphological instruction was more effective with children in earlier grades, so pre-K to grade 2 compared to grade 3 to grade 8. And with children with underdeveloped skills compared to those with more advanced skills. So this is a possible avenue by teaching morphological awareness skills to maybe lift up that bottom end of your class that are struggling readers. So this makes sense because morphology helps to integrate other aspects of reading, as we mentioned before, semantics, orthography, and phonology. So reason number 5, morphological knowledge can support spelling. It's often the case that a particular morpheme is spelt the same way, even though it's represented by different sounds in different words. So, for example, try explaining to a student why the word locks and fox are spelt differently. So after you've spent a whole term teaching phonics, how do you explain that? Or explain why trees and freeze are spelt differently? As you can see by this example, students cannot learn to spell words solely by sounding them out, because a single letter in English can represent more than one sound. Knowledge of morphemes can make spelling of complex words and spelling exceptions easier for students to remember. So for example, even though the words called and bald rhyme, awareness of the past tense morpheme ed gives an explanation for why called and bald are spelled differently. Too often teachers will revert to the adage, oh, it's a tricky word, or you just need to remember it. However, it can easily be explained through an understanding of morphology. So for example, take this writing sample of a 7.5-year-old student here. Often we find they over-apply grapheme phoneme rules when spelling. However, I'm sure in this example, you can see how an explicit lesson focused on the use of ed suffix ending could have addressed the issue. So look at I picked it up and opened. So they're only spelling it with a D, not an ED. So I've also linked below to a short video by Dr. Pete Bowers illustrating the point about spelling and morphology using an example of the word does. And also the Goodwin paper I mentioned before from 2010 will explain more of this as well. So this video was just a brief overview of why you should care about morphology. I only lightly touched on the evidence related to morphological awareness's contribution to reading development and achievement. So I encourage you to work your way through the linked papers that I've put below this video and explore this growing body of work that demonstrates the need for a greater focus on morphological instruction in our classrooms and its importance to the English language in reading development. Now, I'm not sure I've convinced you, but I do know I love morphology. So I hope you join me on the next few videos where we'll chat about when and who should morphological instruction be directed at, and maybe a discussion of, in a presentation of some instructional methods and strategies that you can maybe introduce into your classroom or in small group settings to support the literacy development of children through morphology. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, see ya.